All right, the next change challenge is that we often feel depleted when we're trying to make a change in our lives. And the reason that this is so tough is that we generally try to use willpower to move ourselves forward with changes that are hard. And there are two main areas where we use willpower. One is to act on a new habit when we just don't want to do it. We know we ought to, but we don't really feel like it. And the other is to avoid an unwanted habit, but we have a strong urge to do it. And so if you imagine being a rider on a horse, we use willpower either as the sort of whip to like whip ourselves forward to do the thing, or as the bit to like rein ourselves in. And that kind of force is really depleting. And it's not sustainable because making a new habit requires us to do something over and over and over again, and it's hard. So in order to do that, we really actually want to use willpower sparingly and not base our whole change strategy on sort of this forceful way of being with ourselves. And there are several ways to do this, a couple, and the whole book, quite honestly, is a huge discussion of like how to make this easier. And a big part of that is preparation. The book is broken down into four main sections, really three main sections. And I will say that up through page, oh gosh, what do the eyeballs say? That tiny little number, 148, is all about how to prepare. It's not even about acting on your habit. It's like how to set it up for success. And those are ways that help it be a little more downhill travel so it's not so difficult all the time. Another idea about how to use willpower sparingly is to do a micro resolution. And a micro resolution is what is something you can do in 2 minutes or less to make your action either more accessible or to do a little corner of it or something, and really focus in on that micro resolution. And for me, my micro resolution was to notice and exhale, like just pay attention and exhale. And just kind of like slow myself down. For example, in terms of trying to redirect myself parentally. Another one is to refuel. And again, with willpower, what the research shows is that it's like a muscle. I mean, it gets tired after a while. And if we don't just pause and do some self-care and restoration and sort of like, again, step away from the struggle of it, that's where resolutions fail consistently. So this issue of refueling is a really important one. So again, give some thought in your own situation to a simple thing that you could do that would help you with your willpower, and use it less often, not muscle through so much, and to set yourself up for success. Like, what are some cues to remind you to kind of keep your focal point in front of you? Different ways to have what you need in mind, whether it's have thoughts ready to go or resources or whatever. And again, the book gets into this in great detail.
And I just had a question about the depleted
Mm-hmm.
And using willpower.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the turning, moving to positive things you suggested was the refueling.
Yes.
And are you talking about just basic self-care there, or did you have some specific ideas about how to fuel one's willpower?
Yeah. Yes, basic self-care for sure is a huge part of refueling on willpower. And from the 12-step program, I mean, one of the things that's incredible about Alcoholics Anonymous and all of the variations on that is that it is all about teaching strategies in that case for like helping people turn over that sense of just pushing and shoulder to the wheel and trying to power through sobriety, right? So in AA, for example, there's a faith component, right? Where whether it's in a spiritual or religious sense or to the community of AA, there's a sense of like release that kind of helps people feel a sense of unburdened, a lighter care, there's connection, right? So the basics of self-care, I mean, one of the huge things that I focus on is breath work. So you'll see a lot in the book about breathing and getting our heart rate variability managed and all this kind of stuff, because when we're under threat, we are big time in this sort of component where life is coming at us on full blast, and we need to calm our bodies down so that we get back in our frontal lobes and then can kind of like reset. So those are some refuel actions. A lot of them are sensory. Gigi Willett, Chris Cannon, these embodied, all of my colleagues here who are trauma therapists, you know, these embodied methodologies that like help release the tension in the body is a refuel, right? So those are some examples. And then I just kind of invite you to explore what that looks like. But it's really important because this is, any change process takes a long time. You know, it's not a one and done kind of thing. And so we have to kind of find ways to manage our stamina.